If you had told me that a broken ceiling light would unravel the carefully guarded secret of my life, I would have replaced the bulb myself, but I didn't, and that's how he walked in. The hallway light had been flickering for weeks. Not the dramatic horror movie kind, just a soft, inconsistent tremble. Like it was unsure whether it wanted to stay or give up. Kind of like me. I stood beneath it with my arms crossed, watching the pale glow blink against the apartment walls. The shadows stretched and shrank like they were breathing. "Get it together," I muttered, though I wasn't sure if I was talking to the light or to myself. 3 months. 3 months since I'd moved into this building. 3 months of polite nods to neighbors. 3 months of keeping my head down, of carefully neutral conversations at work, of avoiding any personal questions. 3 months of pretending. The landlord had finally sent someone to fix it. I didn't expect him to look like that. The knock came at exactly 4:07 p.m. I checked the PEEPHOL, and then I forgot how to breathe. Tall, broad shoulders, dark curls that fell slightly over his forehead. Tool bag slung casually over one shoulder. Worn denim jacket. Calm expression. He looked like the kind of man who would lean against a doorway in a movie and ruin someone's emotional stability. I opened the door. "Hi," he said, offering a small smile. "I'm here about the flickering light." His voice was warm, low, steady. Yeah. It's been acting weird." "Acting weird? That's what you're going with?" My brain screamed. He stepped inside, brushing past me gently. The faint scent of cedar and clean laundry followed him in. "I'm Luca," he said, setting his tool bag down. Ethan glanced back at me, and there was something in his eyes, something observant. Not judgmental, just aware. "Nice place, Ethan." It wasn't. It was minimal, safe, neutral. No framed photos. No pride flags. No hints. Careful, he dragged a small step ladder beneath the hallway light. "Mind holding this steady?" he asked. I stepped closer. Gripping the sides of the ladder, he climbed up, and that's when I noticed it. The way his shirt lifted slightly as he reached up. The subtle definition beneath the fabric. The quiet concentration on his face as he unscrewed the casing. "Stop staring." He bent down slightly to grab a screwdriver from his pocket, and I instinctively looked away, but not before he caught me. A slow, amused smile tugged at his lips. "See something interesting up there?" he teased lightly. Heat rushed to my face. "Just making sure you don't fall." "Oh, so you care." His tone was playful, not accusatory, not heavy, just warm. I swallowed. It would be awkward explaining that to the landlord. He laughed, soft and genuine, and the sound did something reckless inside my chest. A spark crackled from the wiring. "Ah," he murmured. "Found your problem? Is it bad?" "Not terrible. Just loose wiring. Needs tightening." He paused. "Loose connections cause more problems than people think." His words lingered. For a second too long did he mean no stop? He was just talking about wires, right? As he worked, silence filled the hallway. But it wasn't uncomfortable, so he said casually, "You just move here?" "Yeah, a few months ago from Chicago. Big shift." "Yeah." He glanced down at me. "You don't talk much, do you?" "I do." That amused look again. I tightened my grip on the ladder. He climbed down once to grab another tool, and as he stepped close to me, our hands brushed just slightly, but it felt like static. He paused. I froze. His thumb lingered for half a second longer then. "Necessary, then?" He pulled back. "Sorry," he said. Quietly, "It's fine." Fine, because my pulse was racing. He finished adjusting the wiring and climbed down fully. "Try." I flipped the switch. The hallway flooded with steady, unwavering light. No flicker, no hesitation, just brightness. "There you go," he said. I looked at the light, then at him. "Thanks." Right. He started packing his tools. "Slower than necessary?" You live alone? He asked, tone casual. Yes. Girlfriend back in Chicago? There it was. The question. The one that always came. The one that forced me into careful, rehearsed responses. I hesitated, and he noticed his movements slowed. No, I said finally. He waited. I could feel it, the space he left for more. No girlfriend. Something shifted in his expression. Not surprise recognition, double quotes, boyfriend? He asked gently. My heart slammed against my ribs. He didn't say it. Mockingly, didn't smirk, didn't tense. Just asked like it was normal. Like it was. Okay. I looked down at the floor. There was someone, past tense. Luca nodded once. Long time. For years, that's not nothing. No, silence stretched between us, heavy, fragile. I don't really. I swallowed. Tell people, his gaze softened. You don't have to tell people, he said quietly. But you shouldn't have to hide either. The words hit harder than I expected because hiding was exactly what I'd been doing. New city. New job? Clean slate, safer that way, right? He picked up his jacket. Well, he said, slipping it on. Wiring solid now, right? He moved toward the door, then paused. Turned back, he added casually. If anything else starts flickering, you can call me directly. He pulled a small card from his pocket and handed it to me. Our fingers touched again. Deliberate, this time his eyes held mine. And for a split second, something unspoken passed between us. An understanding, maybe even an invitation. I don't just fix lights. Lightly, my throat went dry. No. He smiled, slow and warm, then opened the door. See you around. Ethan, and just like that, he was gone. The apartment felt different after he left. Brighter, louder, like the walls had heard everything. Looked down at the card in my hand. Luca Martinez. Electrical technician phone? Number? I traced the letters with my thumb. Don't read into it, but I already was. That night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The steady hallway light glowed beneath the doorframe. No flicker, no tremble. Just constant illumination. And yet, inside me, something had started to flicker wildly. Because when he asked boyfriend, there had been no hesitation in his voice. No discomfort, just curiosity, understanding, hope. I turned onto my side. What if he knew? What if he saw it in the way I looked at him? The way my breath hitched when he leaned closer? The way my hand almost rested on his arm when he climbed down? I pressed my face into the pillow. This was dangerous. New city meant new rules. Be careful, be quiet, blend in. But his words echoed. You shouldn't have to hide. And for the first time in months, I wondered what it would feel like not to. The next afternoon, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My pulse quickened before I even answered. Hello. Hey. That voice. Warm. Low. Slight smile behind it. Luca. Yeah, just making sure the light's behaving. I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. It is good a pause. Coffee? Straightforward, casual. My heart pounded so loudly, I was sure he could hear it. Coffee? I repeated, there's a place around the corner. Nothing dramatic. Just caffeine? Was this happening? Was I about to, I don't usually, I started. Hide? He finished gently silence. He wasn't mocking. He was offering. I get off at 6, he added. If you're interested. My mind raced. This was how it started. The risk, the possibility, the fear, and the thrill. I glanced toward the hallway. The steady light glowed. Confidently, no flicker, no hesitation. Maybe it was my turn. 6 is good, I said quietly. I could hear his smile through the phone. See you then, Ethan. As the call ended, I stood frozen in the middle of my living room. Something had shifted, the broken light, wasn't the only thing that had been fixed, because Luca hadn't just tightened loose wiring, he'd exposed something I'd been carefully keeping in the dark. And tonight, I was stepping into the light. I almost canceled twice. By 5:42 p.m., I had changed my shirt 3 times and told myself at least 6 different reasons why meeting Luca for coffee was a bad idea. New city, new job, clean slate, stay quiet, stay safe. But underneath all of that fear was something louder. Hope, and hope, I was starting to realize, could be far more terrifying than loneliness. The cafe sat on the corner just past my building, warm lights glowing behind wide glass windows, the faint hum of evening conversations spilling onto the sidewalk. It was one of those cozy places that looked like it held stories in its walls. Luca was already there. Of course he was. He leaned casually against the brick exterior, hands tucked into his jacket pockets, dark curls slightly messy, sleeves rolled just enough to reveal his forearms. When he spotted me, his face softened, not in surprise. "In recognition you came?" he said. Pushing off the wall, I shrugged, pretending my pulse wasn't racing. "You said caffeine? That's persuasive," he grinned. "Good. I'd hate to think it was just my charming personality." I let out a quiet laugh. "We'll evaluate that." "Oh, it's a test now?" "It's always a test." His shoulder nudged mine lightly as we walked inside. The contact was brief, but deliberate, and my skin reacted, like it had been waiting for it. We ordered 2 coffees. Black for him, oat milk for me. "You strike me as someone who thinks too much," he said as we waited. "That's oddly specific," tilted his head, studying me in that calm, observant way. "You hesitate before answering simple questions. Like you're calculating outcomes." I swallowed. He wasn't wrong. "Occupational hazard," I said lightly. "Marketing analytics." He nodded. "So you literally calculate outcomes?" I laughed. The sound felt unfamiliar, loose, unguarded. We found a small table near the window. Outside, dusk settled over the street, soft and golden. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke, but it wasn't awkward. It was charged, like something was building quietly between us. "You almost said no," he said suddenly. My eyes snapped to his. "What?" "When I called?" There was a pause. He took a slow sip of his coffee. "You were deciding if I was safe." My breath caught. "Was I that obvious?" "You don't have to answer that," he added gently. "I was," I admitted. He nodded once. "No offense taken. That makes sense. Does it?" "Yeah." His voice softened. "New place. New people. You don't know who's okay and who isn't." The way he said okay, I felt it. "You always this perceptive?" I asked. "Only when I care to be." The words landed quietly between us. Care. My chest tightened. A group of friends at the next table burst into laughter. Breaking the intensity for a moment, Luca leaned back slightly, crossing one ankle over the other. "So," he said, a hint of mischief returning to his tone. "For years is serious." I looked down at my cup. "Yeah. What happened?" The question wasn't invasive. It was careful, and for some reason, that made it harder. "He wanted more than I could give," I said slowly. "Or maybe I wanted less risk than he did." Luca watched me closely. "He was out?" He asked. "Yes, and you weren't." Accusation? It was an understanding. I nodded. "He said he was tired of being my roommate at work." Events. That word roommate, it tasted. Bitter. Luca's jaw tightened slightly. "You loved him?" "Yeah, and you still chose safety." His words weren't sharp, just honest. I thought I had to. I whispered. A long pause followed. Then Luca leaned forward slightly, elbows resting on the table. "Can I tell you something?" he asked. I nodded. "I used to date someone like you." My stomach dropped. Like me. Careful, quiet, brilliant at building walls. That stung. But it also felt seen. "He was terrified of losing his family," Luca continued. so he lost himself instead. My chest ached. That didn't end well, I said softly. No. Silence again, heavy honest. A moment later, the mood shifted, maybe because it had to. Okay, Luca said suddenly, sitting up straighter. Enough trauma talk for first coffee. I blinked. Is that a rule? It is now. He leaned closer across the table. So tell me something fun about you. Fun? Yes, you must have at least one interesting trait. I pretended to think deeply. I make excellent pancakes, he gasped dramatically. That's not a trait. That's a marriage proposal. I nearly choked on my coffee. Relax, he said with a teasing smirk. We're not there yet. Yet the word echoed louder than it should have. As the evening deepened, conversation flowed easier. We talked about music, terrible first jobs, embarrassing childhood phases at one point. Luca dropped a napkin. When he bent down to pick it up, I couldn't stop my eyes from following the movement, he noticed. Of course he did, when he straightened. He raised one eyebrow. See something interesting? My face burned. The napkin. Wah. He didn't press it, but the corner of his mouth lifted slightly, and the air between us shifted playful. Electric. Later, as we stepped back outside, the night air wrapped around us cool and gentle. Well, he asked, hands sliding into his pockets again. Did I pass the evaluation? I hesitated deliberately. You're charming? That sounds cautious. It is. He stepped. Closer, not touching, just near enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I don't want to be cautious, he said. Quietly, my heart pounded. What do you want? Honest. The word hung between us. I searched his face. No mockery. No pressure. Just openness. You make me nervous, I admitted. His expression softened. Good nervous? Yes. Like flickering light nervous, he asked gently. I smiled despite myself. Maybe. He reached up suddenly and adjusted my collar slightly. Slow, deliberate. There, he murmured. You wrinkle it when you're thinking too hard. My breath hitched. The touch lingered half a second longer than necessary. When he pulled his hand back, my skin missed it instantly. You do that on purpose, I said quietly. Do what? Make it hard to stay guarded. He studied me for a long moment. Ethan, he said softly. I'm not trying to expose you. The word hit me. Expose my biggest secret. But I won't pretend not to see you either. Something inside me cracked. Just slightly. A car drove past. Headlights briefly illuminating us, without thinking. I stepped a little closer to him. The movement was instinctive. His fingers brushed against mine. Then, slowly, deliberately, he laced them together. My breath stopped. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't rushed. Just warm, solid real. I glanced around automatically. Old habits, Luca noticed. He didn't let go, but he didn't tighten his grip either. He just waited. The choice was mine. And, for the first time in a long time, I didn't pull away. You don't have to decide everything tonight, he said gently. I know. But I'm not interested in being a secret. Honesty was steady. Calm, not. Demanding just clear, I don't want you to be, I whispered. He squeezed my hand slightly. That's a start. We stood there like that for a moment longer, fingers intertwined. City lights glowing around us. It felt simple and terrifying. And right when we finally separated, it felt like peeling away from something warm. I'll walk you home, he said casually. It's 30 seconds away, and I'll enjoy the scenic route. I laughed softly as we reached my building entrance. He stopped. Ethan. I looked up at him. Yeah. I like you. Direct, unfiltered. My chest tightened. I like you too. The words felt like stepping off a ledge, but instead of falling, I felt lighter. He smiled, not smug, not triumphant, just relieved. Good, he said quietly. For a split second, I thought he might kiss me. The space between us shrank. My pulse roared in my ears. But he didn't, instead. He brushed his knuckles lightly against my cheek. Soft, intentional. "I'll see you tomorrow," he murmured. "Tomorrow. If you want," I nodded. Double quotes. "Yes." His smile deepened. Then he stepped back. "Good night, Ethan." "Good night, Luca." I watched him walk away until he turned the corner. Only then did I step inside. The hallway light glowed steadily. Overhead, unshaken, unflickering, I stood beneath it. Heart still racing. Tonight hadn't been dramatic. There were no grand declarations, no reckless kisses, but something had shifted. I had held his hand in public, even if only for a minute, even if my heart nearly exploded in my apartment. I leaned back against the door and exhaled slowly. This wasn't just flirtation. This wasn't just chemistry. This was possibility. And possibility meant risk. But maybe I was tired of living in the dark. My phone buzzed before I even reached the couch. "Luca, made it home." "You're still overthinking." "I can feel it." I smiled. Maybe a little." "Luca, don't." A pause. Then another message. "Luca, you don't have to hide with me." My throat tightened. I stared at the steady glow seeping under the hallway door. No flicker, no hesitation. Just light. And for the first time in years, I wanted to step fully into it. The third time Luca came to my apartment. It wasn't for the light. It was for me. He showed up with takeout, and that same calm confidence that somehow both steadied and unraveled me. "I brought Thai," he announced as I opened the door. "And before you panic, I checked no peanuts." "You mentioned that allergy thing." I blinked. "I did. See." He smirked lightly. "You talk. I listen." Something about that, something so simple, made my chest ache. He stepped inside like he belonged there now. Like my carefully neutral apartment had, slowly started adjusting around him. The hallway light glowed steadily overhead. He looked up at it. "Still behaving?" he asked. "So far." "Good," he murmured, glancing at me instead of the fixture. We spread the food out on my small dining table. The space felt smaller with him in it, not cramped, just warmer, comfortable. He shrugged off his jacket and hung it over the chair. "Movie?" he asked. "Sure. Your pick." I hesitated. Romantic comedies felt too obvious. Action movies too detached. I chose something safe. A quiet indie film about two strangers finding each other in a new city. Luca noticed. "Subtle," he teased. I rolled my eyes. "It had good reviews, hum." He bumped his shoulder lightly against mine as we moved to the couch. That couch suddenly felt very small. We sat side by side. A polite inch between us. Too polite, too careful. I could feel the warmth of him even without touching. The movie started. Soft music. Slow pacing. 5 minutes in, Luca shifted, another inch closer. My pulse reacted immediately. Don't freeze. Just breathe, halfway through the film. There was a scene where one character nervously brushed their hand against the other's. Luca glanced at me. "You're doing that thing again?" he murmured. "What thing?" "Overthinking." "I'm not, you are." His fingers moved slightly. Resting against mine on the couch. Cushion. Not holding. Just touching. The contact was featherlight, but intentional. I swallowed. "You started it," I whispered. He leaned in slightly. "I'm finishing it." Carefully, he laced his fingers through mine. This time, inside my apartment, inside my safe space. My heart pounded so loudly. I barely heard the movie anymore. We didn't pull apart. Instead, the silence between us deepened, not awkward. Not forced, just charged. He squeezed my hand gently. When a dramatic scene played, I squeezed back. The intimacy wasn't loud. It was subtle, and somehow it made it more dangerous. At some point, the takeout containers were forgotten. The movie became background. Noise. and Luca's thumb began tracing absent-minded patterns over the back of my hand. "You're shaking," he said. Softly, "I'm not." "You are," I exhaled slowly. "This is new," I admitted. He turned toward me more fully, being touched. "No," I said quickly. Being seen. Honesty hung in the air between us. He didn't laugh, didn't deflect. Instead, he reached up gently and brushed a stray piece of hair away from my forehead. His fingers lingered. "Ethan," said quietly, "what are you so afraid of?" The question settled deep. I looked away. My family doesn't know. There it was, the biggest secret, spoken out loud. He didn't react dramatically. "Just wait, they're traditional." I continued. "Close-knit, loud, opinionated." I forced a small smile. "We do Sunday dinners, weekly calls. Holidays are non-negotiable, and they don't know about you." "No, did they know about him?" "The 4-year relationship?" I shook my head. "He came to one Thanksgiving," I admitted quietly. "As my friend?" The word felt hollow. Luca's jaw tightened slightly. "That must have hurt." "It did? More than the breakup?" I hesitated. "Yes, because losing him had been one thing, but watching him shrink into the word friend had been another." Luca shifted closer until our knees brushed. "You think they'll stop loving you?" he asked gently. "I don't know. Or you think they'll love you differently?" That question cut deeper because that was the real fear. Not abandonment, change, distance, disappointment. Double quotes, "They raised me to be a certain version of myself," I said quietly. "And I've spent years pretending I still am." He studied me for a long moment. Then he did something small, something simple. He leaned forward and rested his forehead lightly against mine. No rush, no urgency, just closeness. "You don't have to pretend here," he whispered. My breath faltered. His hand lifted, cupping the side of my face. The touch was warm, grounding, and when he tilted his head slightly, giving me every chance to move away, I didn't. The kiss was soft, tentative, testing it. Wasn't dramatic. It wasn't desperate. It was a question, and I answered by leaning closer, deepening it slightly. My fingers curled into the front of his shirt without thinking. He let out a quiet breath against my lips, almost a laugh, almost relief. When we pulled apart, the air felt heavier, charged. His thumb brushed lightly across my cheek. "You okay?" he murmured. I nodded. "Yeah. You look like someone just rewired your entire apartment." I let out a shaky laugh. "Maybe you did." He shifted again. Closer this time, one arm sliding carefully around my waist. Not possessive, not forceful, just there. I rested my hand against his chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat. "You're calmer than I expected," he said softly. "I'm panicking." Internally, he smiled against my temple. "Good. Be worried if you weren't." Nudged his shoulder lightly. "You're enjoying this, maybe?" His hand traced slowly along my side, stopping at my waist. Respectful, but undeniably intimate. "Tell me to stop," he said quietly. Met his eyes. "I don't want you to." And that was the truth. The tension shifted again. Playful this time. He leaned back slightly. "Studying me, you know," he said thoughtfully, "for someone who claims to be cautious. You're surprisingly bold." "I'm not bold." "You invited me in for food, Imham, where you kissed me. You didn't stop me." Teasing tone returned, lighter now, safer. I rolled my eyes, but my smile betrayed me. He reached out suddenly and tugged me slightly closer when I laughed. The movement was spontaneous, natural, and it sent a jolt through me. "Your trouble?" I whispered. "I fix things," he corrected gently. My breath caught at that, because that was the problem. He was fixing something I had carefully left broken. My phone buzzed suddenly. On the coffee table, the sound shattered the moment. I glanced. Downbot family group chat. Photo from my mother. Sunday dinner preparations. I wish you were here. My stomach tightened instantly. Luca noticed. That's them? He asked quietly. I nodded. He didn't let go of me, but I felt the tension shift. This is the part, I said softly. What part? Where I decide who I am. He studied me carefully. You. Don't have to decide tonight. Do? Because I was tired. Tired of editing. Pronouns. Tired of avoiding questions. Tired of shrinking myself into something manageable. I looked back at my phone, then at him. His expression wasn't demanding, it wasn't pleading, it was steady, supportive. I can't keep living in separate rooms, I whispered. He brushed his thumb gently over my waist, then don't. My pulse roared in my ears. Fear crawled up my spine, but so did something. Stronger, love, or the beginning of it. I picked up my phone, opened. The chat, my hands trembled. Luca squeezed my side, gently grounding. I'm not ready for a big announcement. I said quietly. You don't have to perform, he replied. Just be honest. So I typed. I've been seeing someone. 3 dots appeared almost immediately. My heart pounded. That's wonderful. Tell us about her. There it was. The old script. The easy lie. I stared at the screen. I felt Luca's presence. Beside me, felt the steady hallway light glowing behind us. No flicker, no hesitation, and slowly. I typed again. His name is Luca. I hit send before. I could overthink it. The silence afterward felt deafening. I couldn't breathe. Luca didn't speak. He just stayed. Solid. Present. A moment later, my phone buzzed again. And again. And again. I didn't open it. Not yet. Instead, I set the phone down slowly and looked at him. I did it, I whispered. He searched my face, not triumphant, not smug, just proud. You did. Relief and terror collided in my chest. What happens now? I asked. Now, he said gently, brushing his nose lightly against mine. We wait. His lips found mine again, slower this time, deeper, not urgent, certain, for the first time in years. I wasn't splitting myself in half. I wasn't dimming. I wasn't flickering. I was standing fully in the light. And no matter what my phone said next, I wasn't alone. The phone kept buzzing, over and over, each vibration felt like a countdown to something. Irreversible. I stared at it on the coffee table like it might explode. Luca didn't touch it. He didn't tell me to check it. He just stayed beside me, his hand warm at my waist. Steady as gravity, you don't have to look. Yet, he said quietly, I know. But I did, because this was the moment I had been avoiding for years. Not just tonight, years. I picked up the phone. 32. New messages. My throat tightened. Open the thread, my mom. His name is Luca. My sister? Wait. His? My dad. Call us. The words blurred for a second. I swallowed hard. Here it comes. Then another message appeared. My mom again. Honey, we love you. Call us so we can understand. Understand, not explain yourself. Not, what is this? Understand. My chest cracked open. Luca watched my face carefully. Bad? He asked softly. I shook my head, eyes stinging. I don't know yet. I was honest. It wasn't rejection, but it wasn't certainty either. It was a door cracked open, and for once, I hadn't slammed it shut first. Do you want me to go? Luca asked gently. The question startled me. What? No. He smiled slightly. Just making sure. This is your moment. I don't want to crowd it. You're not crowding, I said quickly. If anything, he was the only reason I wasn't spiraling. He studied me for a second. Call them, he said softly. My stomach flipped. Now, you rip the bandage off. Might as well breathe. I let out a shaky laugh. Stay, I asked. Always. The word settled into my bones. Always. I hit my dad's contact before I could overthink it. The phone rang. Once, twice, then Ethan, his voice was. Steady, deep, familiar, high. Silence, heavy. Not angry. Just waiting. We saw your message, he said. I know. Another pause. You want to explain? There it was. The crossroads. I glanced at Luca. He gave me the smallest nod. I've been dating men, I said quietly. For years. The words felt like stepping into cold water. Shocking. Honest. My dad exhaled slowly on the other end. Is this why you and Daniel broke up? He asked, my breath caught. You remember Daniel? Of course we do. He ate half your mother's pie. Despite everything, I smiled faintly. Yes, I said. That's why. Another long silence. I braced myself. You could have told us, my dad said finally. The words weren't harsh. They were. Hurt. I was scared, I admitted. Of us? Yes, there it was. The truth I'd avoided. I didn't want you to look at me differently. He was quiet for a long time. Then, son, he said slowly. We've always known you were different. My heart dropped, but not wrong. My breath left me in a rush. Not wrong. Luca's fingers tightened slightly around mine, grounding. Present, we might need time, my dad continued. Your mother is? Processing loudly. I almost laughed through tears. That sounded exactly right, but we love you, he added firmly. That doesn't flicker. The word hit me like fate. Flicker. My throat closed up. His name is Luca, I whispered. There was a pause. Is he good to you? I looked at him. Really looked at him. The steady patience, the quiet strength. The way he never pushed, never rushed, never hid me. Yes, I said. He is. Then bring him for dinner, my dad replied. Sunday. The room spun slightly. What? Sunday. We can't understand someone we haven't met. My chest felt too small for my heart. Okay, I breathed. Okay, he echoed. When the call ended, I just sat there, frozen. Luca brushed his thumb gently over my knuckles. Well, he asked softly. I looked at him. They want to meet you. His eyebrows lifted slightly. That's not bad. It's not bad, I repeated. Almost laughing in disbelief. It wasn't fireworks. It wasn't a dramatic acceptance speech. But it wasn't rejection either. It was love. Imperfect. Human. Willing to try, and that was enough. The tension that had been living in my chest for years loosened. Not gone, but lighter. I thought I'd feel different, I admitted. You do? He said gently. Yeah. You're sitting taller? I blinked. He wasn't wrong. For the first time, I didn't feel split in half. I felt whole Sunday. Came faster than I expected. I almost backed out twice. Luca caught me pacing near the door. You're going to wear a hole in the floor? He teased. Lightly. I can't believe I'm doing this. He stepped closer. Adjusting my collar the way he had that first night outside the cafe. You wrinkle it when you're thinking too hard, he murmured. I smiled despite myself. You remember everything, don't you? Only the important things. His fingers lingered at my collarbone a second longer than necessary. The air shifted, warm, playful, dangerously sweet. You're distracting me, I whispered. Good. He leaned in and pressed a soft kiss to my lips. Not urgent, not rushed, just grounding. You don't have to prove anything tonight, said quietly. Just be you. Which version? I asked. He held my gaze. All of them. My parents' house looked the same. White siding. Blue shutters. Familiar porch swing. My stomach flipped as we walked up the steps. Luca's hand brushed mine. Then, intertwined, public, intentional. I didn't pull away. Door opened before we knocked. My mom stood there. Eyes wide, she looked at me first, then at Luca, then back at me, and instead of shock, she stepped forward and pulled me into a tight hug. "I hate that you were scared." She whispered into my shoulder. My breath broke. "I'm sorry." Cupping my face. "We might say the wrong things," she admitted, "but we love you." Then she turned to Luca. "You must be Luca." He offered a respectful, slightly nervous smile. "Yes, ma'am." "Don't ma'am me." She waved him off. "Come inside." Dinner wasn't perfect. There were awkward pauses. 2 careful questions, my sister asking, "So how did you meet?" With wide-eyed curiosity, Luca answered honestly. He had a flickering hallway light. My dad chuckled. Electrical romance.
Nice.
What's that? Wait. Fine.
The tension eased at one point under the table. Luca nudged my knee lightly when I started over-explaining something. A silent reminder, "You're okay later." When my mom disappeared into the kitchen, my dad leaned across the table. "You make him happy?" He asked Luca directly. Luca didn't hesitate. "Yes." "Sir," my dad nodded once. "That's what matters." It's no speech, no dramatic turnaround, just steady acceptance, like the light in my hallway that night. Back at my apartment, I leaned against the door with a long exhale. "You survived," Luca teased. "We survived." He stepped closer, his hands settling naturally at my waist. "You were." "Incredible," he said softly. I was. Shaking still came. His thumb traced slow. Circles against my side. The intimacy felt different now. Not secretive. Not stolen, earned. "You know," he murmured. Brushing his nose lightly against mine, "I didn't just fix your light." "Oh." "No," his voice dropped slightly warm, steady. "You fixed something too." I tilted my head. "What's that?" He smiled. "You made me believe someone could choose love over fear." The word settled deep, because that's what this had been, a choice. Every step, every touch, every message sent. I slid my hands up his chest, resting them against his shoulders. "You didn't expose my biggest secret," I said quietly. No, I smiled softly. "You reminded me it wasn't something to hide." His eyes softened in a way that made my chest ache. And when he kissed me this time, it wasn't tentative. It wasn't questioning. It was certain, slow, warm, full of promise. I melted into him, fingers curling slightly at the back of his shirt as he pulled me just a little closer during a quiet laugh against my lips. The hallway light glowed steadily. Behind us, no flicker, no shadow, just constant brightness. Weeks later, my mom texted asking when you and Luca were visiting again. My sister followed him on social media. My dad sent him a grilling recipe. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't splitting myself into pieces to make other people comfortable. I was whole, and I was loved. One evening, as Luca stood beneath the hallway light, adjusting something minor, I leaned against the wall watching him. "You're staring," he said without looking down. "Maybe." He climbed down slowly. "Stepping close? See something interesting?" He teased, echoing that first day. I smiled. "Yeah," I said softly. "I do." He brushed his fingers lightly against mine, then laced them. Together, no hesitation, no fear, just us. He came to fix the light. But in the process, he helped me step into it, and this time, not flickering, I'm shining.